They say there's three things you lose when you get older. First one is your memory, and I can't remember the other two. Okay, so the CPI for this year has been 8, almost 9% the last couple months. The city's ordinance has a cap on the amount of rent increase. It's based on the CPI, but it's capped at 5%. Is this a up or down or sideways? Okay.
Yeah, it's the next one is bottom.
Anyway, in the ordinance, the city requires that each resident that lives in a manufactured home receives a letter every year explaining the next year's rent increase. And this is the letter that we received. You can see in the blue, it's addressed to the manufactured home resident. Yeah. And so it was put out in July 25th. It's based on the CPI that is produced in June. And the CPI produced in June was 8.6%. Consumer Price Index. In the yellow, you can see they wrote the year ending June 30th is 8.6%. And then they also include that the cap is at 5%. So the residents, in the last couple of times we updated the ordinance, we actually got the city council to understand that there needed to be a cap. So they brought the cap down to 5%. It used to be 6%, so now it's down to 5%. This is the first year that the CPI has been capped. Usually the CPI for the last 6 or 8 years have been 3 or 4, 2, so that has been good on us. But this year it's capped at 5, which is going to mean a $50 raise per month if the rent is $1,000. So everybody next year is going to be expecting that. There are some parks that are family owned and privately owned. They have in the past kept their rent increases low, 1, 2, 3%, even when like in the COVID, there was 2 of them that didn't even raise it. They kept it the same. But there are some parks that are owned by investment groups, out of town groups, and they've come in and bought the land or bought the park, and their bottom line, and they always try to achieve as much as they can. Park Lane is going to probably do, Greenbrier will do the max. Cordova and Caravilla and Granada Villa always seem to do the max. So that's basically what we're going to do. We do have a new, you can see on the bottom of this, it's signed by Jason Crawford. He's been moved up to the Director of Community Development, and the previous Director, Tom Cole, has been moved to another department, so Jason has come up to this department. That's just some city information. We go to question and answer. Anything? Okay. CPI, yeah.
My just question is, does it ever go down? If the CPI goes
Yes.
down, will our rent go down?
CPI is the percent change month to month from the previous year. So if the consumer price index, let's just say it cost $100 to go to the grocery store a year ago. And now 12 months later, for the same items, the CPI being 8.6%, the Government Labor Bureau is saying that that same item would cost $108.60. So now you've seen an 8.6% change from the previous year. Now, back in 2008, when everything went in recession, the CPI was negative 2.6%. So what they were saying is that things in 2007 that cost $100, in 2008, it would have cost $98. So they base it on what it cost this year compared to what it cost 12 months ago.
That was just my question. I live in Parkland Estates, and I know that they had a petition going around to try to lower the rent like 3 years ago, but it never went through.
What's the name of the
Parkland Estates?
Park Lane?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a couple years ago, and they were having us all sign a paper, and it never went through, I guess.
Right. The CPI is guaranteed. You can't change that. Once the owners decide what it is. Now, the part of the increase can be added like capital improvements or issues that are in addition to the regular normal CPI increases. And that's what the residents can petition. If they don't increase it correctly, or if they don't give you the benefit of the paperwork and the documents to prove why they're increasing it, or if they're increasing it based on something that the state doesn't allow, then you can petition to the city and say, we don't agree with this. But as far as the normal CPI, it's automatic. There's no way to petition it. An example was Polynesian Park last year tried to pass on a surcharge to the residents because they repaired the electric system. And it came to the city, and then had a hearing, and the State Public Utilities Commission says that pass-on surcharge is not legal. So when they all looked it up, then the hearing officer made a ruling that says that surcharge cannot be passed on. So, but yeah, I remember Park Lane. When did y'all do that, Lane? About 8 years ago or 6 years ago. They tried to pass on a lot of stuff, and then the lawyer argued that the petition wasn't even signed correctly, so the city made a decision that they couldn't accept the petition because it didn't have the right signatures on it.
The problem was that at Park Lane, some people, they say they're married, but when they get there, they're really
Right.
not, or whatever, or they don't change their name. So they legally were there, and legally by the state laws of California, we should have gotten it, but they didn't, thanks to
Right, and
a lot
that
of
was
people who are
based
no
on a
longer there.
50% petition signature. And we've got the city to adjust it down now to 33%. So you only have to have 30%. But did that answer your question on the consumer price index? Okay. Any other questions? Well, see you next month.